Hey guys, Herman Morris from Alpha One Tactical here. We're back with Firearms 101, still talking about handgun actions, right? Now that you know what the different types of handgun actions are, you might be asking yourself, which one's better than the other? Which one should I look for? Which one should I buy? And if you follow any of my work, especially the personal defense related stuff, you'll be familiar with my mantra that there are no perfect solutions, only perfect answers. So it all depends on application and need. So let's just go over what the pros and cons are of each, so that then you can make your own mind as to what would probably be best for you. All right, so let's go back and start with the revolver again. All right, so if I want you to see what happens to this trigger when I cock the hammer. See how far back it went? All right, so now look how light this trigger is. I mean, it barely touched it and this thing went off. So what's good about that? Well, it's very simple to discharge the weapon in that condition. And that means that I'm less likely to introduce any unneeded or unnecessary movement to the pistol, which is going to make me more accurate, okay? And then if I do it from here, from double action, then I have this very long and tough trigger press to be able to discharge the weapon, all right? So here I have more of an opportunity and I need to muscle this thing more, which means I'm probably gonna introduce a little bit more movement into the pistol when I fire, which means I'm not going to be as accurate, all right? So accurate, right? Not as accurate, okay? But so then why wouldn't you always just have it and carry it this way and just be ready to go? Well, again, safety, right? If this thing requires almost no pressure right here to fire, then this thing could go off at any moment by just anything happening to it. I mean, any jostling, even if I'm carrying it in a holster or whatever, this thing could go off when it's on single action very, very easily. All right, so most people, especially when it comes to revolvers like these, they actually carry them this way and they almost always shoot them in double action unless they're already on the range, on target, and aiming or whatever. They might at that point just cock it first and try to be super accurate and shoot that way. But in terms of carrying them, using them out in the bush or something as a bear gun or something, when you're out in the country or out hunting or whatever, you basically always carry them and you always have you're always ready to use them in this double action setting. All right. Okay. Well, what about semi-automatic pistols? Let's go back to single action first. If you remember, we talked about 1911s. 1911 has the single action, is a single action only pistol. And if you remember, when you cock back that hammer, because of the safety issue that we just discussed with the handgun, then they introduced at least two safety mechanisms. One is just your traditional mechanical safety that you need to flip down. And then on top of that, they also have grip safety in the grip, basically, but in the back strap, to ensure precisely what we just discussed, because the trigger is so light on single action that you need to be very, very careful for it to not discharge. So you have those two safeties to make it safer. Once you defeat those two safeties, then that trigger is just butter. It moves straight back. It's very light. It makes you look really good at the range because it's so accurate. And that's why also a lot of competitors actually like to use 1911s or 1911 style pistols, because they're just so smooth. The triggers are just heaven. But again, then now you have the safety concern. And not only that, if you are going to use one for carry purposes, for personal defense, you have more things to worry about now other than just point and shoot or aim and shoot. You now have to come out of the holster, defeating your mechanical safety, making sure that you have a good purchase on the pistol so that the grip safety is being actuated and that whole bit. So a lot of people don't actually like to carry those for those reasons. They just want to be able to just come out of the holster and be able to get to work. And that's why with the more modern pistols, semi-auto pistols, like this one, single action, double action, you have kind of a mix of both, which is right out of the holster, you might be with your hammer down here, right? So your first shot is going to be one of those long double action cock and release, right? And then obviously this would have actuated, right? This would have reciprocated the slide, which means that my next shot would be in single action, which means that much easier, okay? So we have one long trigger pull, the initial one, and then the remainder of the shots that I have in the pistol are going to be in single action, much easier. So kind of like a hybrid of the two. What are the downsides of that? Well, one of the downsides is that you have different trigger pulls, right? The gun feels different in the initial pull, the initial fire, the first shot out of the holster compared to the other ones. Is it a big deal? No. Can this be trained out? Yes, absolutely. As long as you practice your first shot significantly, get used to being accurate with that long trigger, right? And then you should be good to go. But again, that's just something to keep in mind, to just know that that is the case, all right? And then you have the double action onlys, which are essentially, like I mentioned in the last episode, these are always the same. This is basically just the same mechanism, the same trigger press the entire time, okay? Boom, it's going to cycle, reset, fire, okay? This is good to go right out of the holster. Nothing to fiddle with in terms of safeties or anything like that. It's just good to go. What are the downsides? Well, these triggers just aren't anything to write home about. I mean, they're very mushy and they can be very mushy or gritty. It takes a while to break them in sometimes for them to become even relatively nice. There are some upgrades. You can swap out triggers and a lot of stuff. There's some workarounds to that. I don't tend to mess around with that kind of stuff. I just train, get used to how it feels, and just try to get as good as I can with this thing, and that's it. So again, no perfect answers, no perfect solutions, only trade-offs. So figure out what works for you. Go out and test these different types of actions and see what fits your needs, what makes you or what helps you be a better shot, what makes you more accurate, what is going to allow you to be safer, and make the decision for yourself. Okay? Hope that helps, guys. I'll see you next time.